Welcome to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco, bringing you interviews with industry experts and regular folks who tested the job search waters and succeeded, and strategies to tell your story and land you job interviews in 60 days, guaranteed. Here's your host, Virginia Franco.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited to have with me Andy Foote. He is a LinkedIn brand and content coach and a longtime colleague. He coaches individuals and organizations on how to fully capitalize on everything that the LinkedIn platform has to offer. He has spent the last decade obsessively testing multiple engagement strategies, building a huge and very supportive network on LinkedIn, which is considered by many to be perhaps one of the most important professional networking, the most important professional networking website in the world. He shares his expertise and knowledge on LinkedIn and on his blog, linkedininsights.com, and recently launched his Footnotes podcast, which is a really fun interview show which shines a light on intrinsically interesting people and their fascinating life stories. Andy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Virginia, for having me on. I came on your podcast and I've wanted you on mine for a while because you do have a fascinating life story. I'd love to hear from you. How in the world did you come to be in this position? I'm sure when you were growing up, you did not say, I want to be a LinkedIn coach and trainer. How did that evolve? No, I mean, I only became aware of LinkedIn, I think in, '08, thereabouts. Okay. And that coincided with me being a stay-at-home dad. And so I was literally on the couch with my little one in the high chair and feeding her goop and anything at that stage. Actually, I mean, she was fairly quick onto solids, exactly. And then she would eat whatever I gave her. And both my wife and I were going, score, yes, she's going to eat whatever. No, it didn't last very long. Anyway, so on the couch and then on the laptop and, just discovering this amazing resource called LinkedIn. And I couldn't believe how easy it was to build various things. And I started building communities. So in other words, LinkedIn groups. And I was just, so enamored with the platform, back then. And, that's where I started my education. That's where I started to, I think, better understand how the platform worked. And, the potential was always evident for me. I could always see, how amazing this resource could be in so many different ways, whether it was, for job seekers looking for their next gig, whether it was for people who, were trying to launch their own businesses, reinvent themselves, get a promotion, et cetera, et cetera. And, as a networker in real life, someone who always used to like meeting new people and building new relationships, LinkedIn, gave that opportunity with a very wide scope to me, from day one.
From home, right?
Yeah, from home. So it's similar to COVID today, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's the perfect thing, and we can talk about what that thing is virtually. It's a perfect thing to do in these circumstances. Certainly was perfect for me back then.
I was in the same boat. I launched this company when my children were very small. And I was scratching my head saying, how in the world am I going to have a home-based business? How are people going to find me? And LinkedIn, I didn't know about LinkedIn before that either. I didn't know anyone did resumes for a living either. So that was a whole new learning curve. But I know that you don't work exclusively with, but part of your audience is job seekers, correct? A lot of the advice you give is geared towards them.
Absolutely. Yeah. I work with all manner of professionals, regardless of their objectives. In essence, what I do is professional branding and LinkedIn strategy. And that's obviously a very wide subject The three things that I don't do are I don't do LinkedIn Recruiter, I don't do LinkedIn Advertising, and I don't do Sales Navigator.
You don't do any of those. I don't either.
Those are the three things that I leave to others. But everything else on the LinkedIn platform, I do.
So in terms of challenges facing your clients, which are applicable to those that are job searching, right? Pre-COVID, post-COVID, what do you see as sort of the biggest challenge facing them as it pertains to LinkedIn?
Yeah, the biggest one right now is successfully standing out from the crowd, and the crowd is bigger than ever, seemingly now, with a lot of people being displaced professionally speaking by COVID, and a lot of people sort of jumping into the platform and not really, I think, understanding how best to utilize it, perhaps not knowing the platform period. And it does take quite a bit of playing around with to A, understand what it does, and B, get comfortable doing various things. So, and you'll have seen this yourself, Virginia, but so many people now putting that green Corona on their head.
Yeah, the open to work thing. What are your thoughts on that? There's been a lot of discussion.
Yeah. So I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan for a couple of reasons. The one reason is that, going back to what I was saying before about standing out, you're not standing out. When a lot of people start doing the same thing, then how is that standing out? Number one. Number two has more to do with differentiation. How are you, how are you segmenting the audience in terms of, here are the people that I can help. How are you promoting yourself in a very individualistic way? You can't do that with some coloring on your headshot. It ain't going to work. And anyone who says, well, yeah, but it grabs attention and it clearly signals, what I'm trying to do. Sure, it does, but there are better ways to do that in a way that, promotes yourself in a unique and powerful way. And so, what I would say is forget about the green Corona on your headshot. Focus on, crafting an amazing headline that promotes you in a very unique and resonating way, that you stand out, you catch attention. Because the headline has a very simple job, and that is to pull people over to your profile where they can then take a longer, deeper look at you. So I would concentrate on the headline, and then your second job is to focus on your about section and to make sure that is doing a stunningly good marketing job on you. So it's outlining not only what you do, but what you like to do and what you do well, and indeed better than other people. The about section is where people, including recruiters, are trying to figure out what makes you tick. They'll tick their boxes in terms of skills and all of that good stuff. But ultimately, what could seal the deal, what could swing it in your balance is when you do an outstanding, self-marketing job in your about section. So I don't like the green circle. I think I think people may think, well, that's going to help me. I'm not sure it does. Because you're not differentiating yourself, you're not actually promoting yourself in a unique way. And I think there's also a danger that you may seem desperate, or perhaps not well informed when you do something like that. Because you and I know, Virginia, that people tend to hire people who are not looking, right? I know that seems counterintuitive, but it's a fact. People who are already employed get approached plenty if they have skills that are in demand, if their experience fits a particular role.
I've always felt like people hire the best candidate, whether employed or not employed. And to your point, the headline is the chance for you to make the algorithm work for you. The algorithm is going to drive traffic to your tribe that will drive your profile into the sites of someone much more so than the open to work one.
Totally.
I've told, because, and I've seen a lot of back and forth on this, and I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of A/B testing. Try your efforts for a week with the picture and try it a week without it and see what you think. What I don't like is just aesthetically, I feel like it takes over your picture. And if you've done some work on your picture, I don't want a big green hair blob on top of it.
You're right. I've seen pictures where it basically, it obscures the person's face. Yeah. So that's not good. And then it's quite, again, just aesthetically, it is ugly.
I just don't think it's pretty. I appreciate the intent. I think the intent was, let's do what we can to help job seekers, but I think it just, maybe it hasn't hit the mark the way they hoped.
I'm a little more critical of some of the things that LinkedIn does, and I think this is a great thing for LinkedIn to do in terms of PR and a very obvious. Oh, look how much they're helping, right? And I think that certainly benefits LinkedIn. I don't think it benefits the job seekers.
So you're not assuming good intent.
That much. Yeah.
So what do you think when I'm sure you work with people that are brand new to the platform, as do I, is there something that just catches them off guard? I know a lot of people that think, I could just come on here, cut and paste my resume and I'll be good to go.
Yeah, I think folks who are not used to LinkedIn and the way it works, I think one thing that may surprise them is that it's not just a set and forget, and then wait for good things to happen. It actually takes quite a lot of work, and this is something that I often I think forget about because I'm so unusual. You are probably too, but I'm on the platform, not every waking minute, but I'm on LinkedIn a heck of a lot.
Well, it's really part of our job. When a job seeker, it needs to be part of their job, but that's not intuitive. Yeah.
Yes. So that's it's like, job seeking being a full-time job. Well, being on LinkedIn and monitoring what's happening on the platform, being responsive. And then if you are, if you're going down the publishing route, then, you have to basically look after and monitor your posts and make sure that you're babying those. And you've got to start building those linkages. You've got to start building relationships all the time and keep at it. And I think that may surprise a lot of folks who are kind of new to the platform or have who have never had to become involved up until now.
Do you have a schedule that you recommend for newbies? Because I'm sure not everyone's going to jump into 3 hours a day. Is there sort of something that you would recommend in terms of getting started on babying the post, building those relationships, all of that?
Yeah, I don't have a schedule per se, but I do point at certain things that they should be doing, and one of them I think is at the top of the list ought to be paying close attention to notifications. Yeah, as an example, if you're ever tagged, then you've got to go and look at that and figure out, okay, is this relevant? And if it is relevant, then you get involved and you start responding and
do it quickly. Yeah.
Yes, you do it as quickly as you possibly can.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that if you're tagged and you respond quickly, it helps that post it boosts that post much more quickly than if it sits idle.
Exactly. So responsiveness is key there. What else would I recommend a newbie in terms of how they structure their time on LinkedIn? I'm thinking that it would be a good use of your time to certainly monitor the home feed, and this will vary in terms of content quality, certainly, but it also vary in terms of the relationships that you've built. In other words, your first degrees their content will typically surface in the home feed. So keep an eye on that, because if you're not being notified, then engaging on stuff that you find relevant in the home feed is a quick way to start getting those notifications. So you get into that cycle. The other thing I do is I would pick 10 or so, let's call them influencers for want of a better description, people who are, evidently active on the platform. And sure, if you'd like, they're in your function or in your field. So you're learning stuff and that stuff is gelling with you. It makes sense. And then start engaging on that. Is the other thing I would do. And then the fourth thing I would do is actually, start curating or creating your own stuff, right? Putting your own stories out there. And I use the word stories on purpose because I think everyone who's ever worked, ever had some kind of professional journey has accrued all kinds of experiences. And many of those experiences are A, intrinsically interesting, or B, have value and ought to be shared. And I think that, the best way to stand out from the crowd, as we were talking about earlier, is to start putting yourself out there and just do some storytelling via LinkedIn posts or LinkedIn articles. And that's a great way to differentiate yourself, right? It's not the green circle on your headshot. It's actually, wow, this person can write. And I found that so fascinating. I need to see more of that. I need to know more about that person. That's another great thing to do.
Yeah. No, you're right. The stories resonate. And even if you're not a writer by trade, I just saw, I think it was Joel Alge. I don't know if you know him. He's a recruiter, and he posted over the weekend. He said, "I really didn't do very well in my English class in high school, but I've gotten lots of praise for my writing here." And he talks like he speaks, and he talks in storytelling format, and it really, really resonates.
Yeah, there are so many stories, and myself included, where people have, in at school, their writing ability has been panned, or they've been told, "Hey, I think you'll, maybe stick with accountancy," something like that. And they've proven everyone wrong because they figured it out. That, just as you've said, and what I firmly believe too is, as long as you write how you speak, you've kind of pulled it off.
You're good. Yeah, your English teacher is not looking at this. Thank the Lord.
No. And they'll probably say, what we've noticed is that there's been an extreme relaxation of all kinds of things, including grammar and punctuation.
Yes. Thank goodness.
People just, as long as it's not on the resume, they just let it slide.
It is. It's the one place where they don't. And if you do make a typo, you'll get an email letting you know, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's all about the messaging, the story, and the rest we can deal.
That's right. So sort of switching gears here, I'd love to hear from you. I know there's probably lots of things that drive you crazy when it comes to people just using the platform in the wrong way. Is there something that drives you, though, the most nuts? What's your top?
Yeah, so I think moment. I'm not sure if it's the most nuts, because I've probably got lots of things that really pee me off. But I think the one thing that recently is annoying is when people self-like. So they've got it in their heads that to give the algo an extra boost once they post something, that they will like their own post. So that's something that no. Look, even
etiquette, poor etiquette.
Yeah, it is. It's poor, and even if that did help, which I really think it doesn't. In fact, I think it works against them because LinkedIn hates any kind of gaming. So I'm sure they'll tweak. They'll watch for it. They'll tweak, and they'll probably ding them for doing it. Mm-hmm. But then on top of that, I know someone who. Goodness, they're a LinkedIn trainer and they should know better. But someone not only posts and then likes I will say it's a he, his own stuff, but then he'll comment and like his own comment. And no, he doesn't stop there, Virginia. He goes big. He then goes through his company profile and goes back to the same post, liking the post and liking the comment. I think, dude. Please stop. Yeah. And it just sets a bad example. I think,
I agree.
I mean, if your content is strong enough,
you shouldn't need that.
It doesn't need that. And it's so fake. I mean, everyone can see what that person's doing. Yeah. It's not him. I mean, it's not just him. It's a lot of people that do that. So that's, I think, a sign that people are kind of desperate and keen to do everything possible. But just focus on the content, make your content that as good as it possibly can be, and then just be responsive with the engagement, build relationships, keep learning, keep pushing out the great stuff.
Great. It's funny because usually I'll respond to people's comments, and then once or twice during the first few hours of the post, I'll go back and I'll hit like. And I've accidentally liked my comments. And then I thought, oh no, who's going to see this? And then I had to go back and unlike my comments.
Yes.
It's a whole mess. So I need to do it one at a time to learn that.
Thank goodness for the unlike. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, who noticed that? I hope there are no screenshots of that.
Right.
So I work with, and a lot of people that listen to this come to me because they want to make a move. And they really don't know where to start. Is there sort of one piece of advice that maybe it's in how you write your profile, maybe it's in how you engage? What advice do you have with someone looking to make a career move in terms of how they get started on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so for the career movers, I would definitely focus on your about section. I mean, that really has to be a clear outline and business case for why you're making the move, right? So you've got to explain that pivot, and it has to make sense, right? So whoever's reading that, they need to be convinced after reading it that, yeah, sure, it makes complete sense that Virginia is moving from this to that, and I can see A, why she would want to do it, and B, what she has to bring, what she brings to the table in the as part of the pivot. So that's certainly the practical side of things. And the other thing I would do is look at people who are in the field that you're moving to or function, and I would be absorbing whatever I could in terms of the information I could gather from those folks that are already doing the job, or excelling in their field. And I would look for signals of what I think are success or excellence. And I would think, okay, how do I get that, and how do I replicate that? So that's the beauty of LinkedIn, is that it's a public platform, and there's so much available intel that you can use to your advantage.
No, and, right. Because you can look at their career trajectory and see if it's nonlinear, if it's maybe not the exact kind of move you're trying to make. But I've also seen where when you reach out to someone who has successfully made a move, and you note that you studied their profile and saw that they made this successful leap, that they are willing to talk with you about how they did that.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely
wonderful.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about the profile. Yeah. It's pretty in depth, isn't it? Because you get to see where they started, their schooling, their career progression, so you can really, I think, absorb quite a lot of information that is helpful to you in terms of how you market yourself. So, yeah, that's the other technique I would encourage people to use if they're thinking about pivoting.
So that is great advice when someone's first getting started. What about those people that have been in the mud trying to job search without success? How do you help them figure out what's working and not working for them on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think in terms of we're in it together, and leaning on other folks who are going through the same thing, I would be looking to build relationships or figure out where folks who are in the same boat are currently hanging out, whether that's a LinkedIn group, whether it's a Facebook group. There are communities out there where I think they're incredibly supportive of one another by dint of going through the exact same thing. So not only does that give you it gives you shoulders not to cry on, right, but to lean on in your time of need. It also acts, I think, as a resource for you where perhaps someone in Virginia recently tried for a job and it didn't work out, but guess what, it might work out for you because of what that person's shared. So there's that, there's the communication, there's the sharing of job leads, sharing of experience. And I think that would be helpful for someone who is like really thinking, what do I do now? Right?
Yeah.
I think I've done everything. Seek out those communities. They're undoubtedly around. Go to your first degrees and ask about them and say, have you heard of any job seeker help communities or job seeker collaboration communities? I'd say do that. And then also this is, the mindset is this is just temporary. Keep at it. Eventually you will land. And I think to always do that, never, never lose sight of that. That there are a ton of people in the same predicament. That there are a ton of people that are willing to support you because they're going through the exact same thing. And the people, the relationships that you make, the people you bond with now, they'll be supportive of you for the rest of your life because of how bizarre and messed up, the whole socioeconomic landscape is.
Now, you mentioned, and it's brilliant, the idea of joining a group. And I belong to LinkedIn group and Facebook groups, but I have found Facebook groups to be more supportive of LinkedIn's were, and then they weren't. What are your thoughts on the status of LinkedIn groups right now in terms of how they could help job seekers?
Yeah, so LinkedIn groups are not ideal for a number of reasons. Mainly because of the tinkering that's been done, and a lot of group owners are checked out because they're just so hard to run now.
Yeah,
without getting into the weeds. LinkedIn took away the announcement from LinkedIn group owners. The announcement was the big incentive for running a group. It was the only way that you could communicate with the entire group on a weekly basis. That was just taken away summarily, right, with no explanation. So there are a lot of, there's a lot of politics going on with LinkedIn groups, and it has to do with lack of control, the lack of stats, the lack of really understanding what's going on. But I will say that of the groups that I run, they are still ticking over in terms of membership. So people are still joining groups, my groups, and so people are still joining groups in general, is what I believe. So that's still going on. I think LinkedIn are probably at some stage going to do some smart things with LinkedIn groups. Yeah. That's my hope. But Facebook groups have always been a gem.
Yeah.
Even if you're not I'm not a Facebook guy, but Facebook groups are amazingly easy to run. They've got some terrific conversations going on.
They're easy to engage in and keep up with as well.
Absolutely. It's all about the structure of these communities. And that's something that Facebook have done incredibly well.
It's done a nice job.
Yeah. It's all about, it's all about doing face to face when you can't. That's what, these virtual groups, that's their big strength, is that, hey, I'm going to hang out on Facebook and I'm going to learn some stuff, and I'm going to feel much better about myself because I've engaged.
No, I agree. I think I checked. I belong to like 26 Facebook groups right now. It's been the only reason I go on the site, and I just go straight to my groups and I look at what's posted new.
Yeah, it's great.
Because I don't really love the platform besides that. Okay, what words of wisdom can you share for a person that is sort of all over the place? I get a lot of people like this. They say, well, I can do this or that or the other. I have a really wide array of skills. How do you help them to focus in terms of what to put on their LinkedIn? It's a huge question that I get.
Yeah. So you mean all over the place in terms of what they're wanting to do next? What they want
to do next, because they have a lot of different kinds of skills. And writing it so that the algorithm is to target the right role is challenging.
Yeah. So what I do see a lot of when I'm working with clients is that particularly in their activity section, you can tell straight away when you go into that. You can tell if they're focused or not.
That's true.
And that's not good for your brand, because if someone's trying to figure you out, if someone's trying to if someone's trying to understand what makes you tick and where your true passion is, then you're sending mixed signals and messaging by being all over the place and liking something that that's random, seemingly random, or engaging with something
that's off-brand.
That's not in your wheelhouse. So I would say, to be very disciplined in terms of what you touch on LinkedIn, and to essentially stick to your wheelhouse. So that if it's I don't know, if it's product development that you're all about, then make that product development more or less every day. Don't veer off at a tangent, because that can be pretty confusing, and it sends the message that, well, maybe she's not serious about product development, right? Maybe we shouldn't have that conversation with her if she's talking about, I don't know, UX, right? Or whatever it is. So I think people need to understand that, and they need to send that out, that message out in what they're doing on a daily basis on LinkedIn. And I think it is possible to say, okay, I'm interested in this and this, and to try and keep doors open via your about section. I think that's definitely possible. I've done it for clients in crafting their about sections to make sure that no doors are closed. And if it's 2, then that's great. But more than 2 is often difficult to pull off, because then you really start.
You seem too scattered.
Yeah, you look like you're trying to do everything. That you're a jack of all trades and master of none.
Do you know if with the activity section, is the algorithm impacted by what you engage, don't engage, dwell on, linger on?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that it works that way. I think it's if only it was that smart, Virginia. I think what it primarily does is that it looks for signals from us in terms of what we're slowing down on in terms of the home feed. And then, if you slow down on something by a particular author, and then you click on it, you spend, more time than on anything else that you've done that whatever during that hour.
So push it to you versus you push to them. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So I think it takes a lot of cues from your activity, and it might try and serve you more from that author, and that's probably as clever as it gets. Wouldn't it be great if it served you more about this subject?
Yeah,
right? That would be pretty impressive. But I don't think we're there yet.
And I know that when you go into someone's profile, you can see their activity. Do you have any sense for if that is also easy to see in LinkedIn Recruiter? I don't use it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't use Recruiter, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I have to ask about that.
Yeah, I think Recruiter is primarily about the skills, and making sure that all of your 50 skill slots are filled.
Match.
Yeah, with actual skills that you have, and I think Recruiter is powerful in finding candidates by the people using Recruiter putting in the right combo of skills.
Yeah. But regardless, when your name pops up in Recruiter, when they are then doing that next level dive, I do know for certain that they'll go into your activity.
Yeah,
and that's where that focus does matter.
Yeah,
because it shows you're committed and interested and knowledgeable and all of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're looking for that complete, that complete picture for sure. And you don't want to send any mixed messaging.
So shifting gears, but also talking about messaging, there's been a lot of talk about just discrimination, age, ethnicity, gender. It's been in headlines a lot. Probably the biggest topic that I deal with my clients is the age concern. What are your thoughts on how to help clients navigate that in terms of what they put on their profile? Yeah,
I think it's a tough one, Virginia, because no matter what you do, at the end of the day, you're going to have if you're advanced enough in the process, the job hunt and the application process. At some stage, you're going to be sitting down with a human being, or you're going to be on camera,
face to face at some point. Sure,
exactly. So, hiding your education dates, or just simply not putting them on your profile, that in itself is, I think, a clue that you might be worried about ageism. So, you're going to have to face it at some stage. And what I always tell my clients who are worried about it is that, well, if a prospective employer is going to, judge you based on, how much time you've got left to contribute, right, to their whatever they're trying to do, then perhaps they're not the right employer for you. It's always been short-sighted, I think, to me, for employers to take a view on, well, we need fresh, we need grads, we need malleable. It's complete BS. I mean, you're missing out on so much experience, life experience and otherwise. So yeah, that's my approach always has been is, look, if that's their decision making, if they're that superficial, then perhaps that's not the organization for you. And you can't really hide. You can't pretend that you're much younger than you are.
No, gosh, if you have a picture that's 20 years out of date and then they meet you,
it's a big no-no.
It's a big, yeah.
I mean, and I had a picture on my profile for the longest time, and it was easily 10, if not 15 years out of date. And the reason I had it was I loved the pic. I thought, wow, you handsome son of a gun. And then I sat down with a client, and literally he was looking at me going, well, okay, so how old is this? And it was embarrassing. Just put your photo on, your current photo on. The goal is you walk in a room and they're able to recognize you. That's the goal with your headshot.
That is the goal. Yeah. And it's funny with the education and with listing earlier jobs, the strategy I use for a resume is very different than a LinkedIn, because LinkedIn, you only see the first couple of jobs. And then if you're really interested, you're going to click on to read more. And then the fact that you took them that far means you sort of mitigated any age concerns.
Right.
So if there's a great job from 1982, I'm going to put it on there. Just depends on if it's relevant to the role.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And you're right. The picture is going to reveal the age, reveal the gender, reveal the ethnicity, all of that.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Great. So one of my favorite questions, let's say someone comes to you and says, Andy, I've got 5 minutes. I'm going to start job searching. What are 2 tools that I absolutely have to have? What say you? I imagine LinkedIn is one.
Yeah, LinkedIn is definitely one. I'm kind of, I mean, this is not a great tool, but I'm kind of in love with Canva right now. Canva is just
Photoshop for dummies.
Yeah, it's for people who want to brand themselves and just don't want to deal with the learning curve of learning Photoshop. It's a really easy way, for example, to do a banner, right? It's an easy way to make any content that you want to push out, on platforms like LinkedIn or other platforms, to do it just so well and professionally, and to impress people. So, and there are a ton of so many software tools out there that just make your life easier, but make you a more come across as a more polished professional. So I think LinkedIn and Canva would be my 2.
So I love Canva. The one thing though, with the banner piece. So for those of you who don't use Canva, if you go in and you choose what you want to, what you're creating it, whether it be a Facebook post, an Instagram post, or a LinkedIn banner that goes behind your picture. The Canva default is for the desktop. And then when you go to mobile, so when, on desktop, your picture's to the left, but on mobile, your picture's in the middle. So you have to be mindful of what picture you use so that it still looks good wherever your face is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point.
Which drives me crazy, but that is. Anyway, so you've got your podcast, you have your business. Is there anything exciting down the pike for you if we ever get let out of our houses in a full capacity?
Yeah. So I don't know what there is that I'm looking forward to after COVID. But I can say, and you already mentioned it, I can say that the podcast is something that I'm really, really enjoying. because I spent a lot of time researching the equipment. I had an idea of what I wanted to do, that it was all about the questions and the guests. And so that's really been quite thrilling for me to do. And then it's an endless amount of work, because it's not just the podcast and recording it and then just publishing it. There's now the show notes and the transcription, and that's a whole heck of.
You've created a whole other set of work.
I know that exactly. So I've got weeks of catching up to do in terms of doing that, which is important for SEO. But beyond COVID, I really don't have anything on the horizon that I can think of right now. It's business as usual, and then being as creative as I can, and making sure that everything that I do, the content that I push out, is high quality always.
So people want to follow you, reach out to you. On the bio, I have your LinkedIn URL and then linkedIninsights.com. Is there any other way that you suggest people, another place that they go to connect with you?
No, those are the two best ways. Yeah, LinkedIn and linkedinsights.com. Not necessarily in that order. Those are the two best places to get in touch.
Excellent. And you're always great about responding in record time. So I appreciate that.
I try to.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was, as always, I always learn something from you, whether from your Facebook group or your posts or these discussions. So I really appreciate you.
Back at you, Virginia. It's always a pleasure.
You've been listening to Resume Storyteller with Virginia Franco. To learn more about storytelling strategies to catch the eye of today's skim online readers, hiring and decision makers, go to www.virginiafrancoresumes.com.